Okay, there we go. See, we've got a couple folks who are starting to join, and we've had some registrants. So we're going to give it a couple minutes, but as we do that, just want to thank you for joining if you're already one of our attendees. And then we're also going to have a lot of time tonight for Q&A. So if you've got questions throughout the presentation, should take about 20 to 30 minutes, and then we'll dive right in to answer your questions. Okay, I'm gonna start sharing the screen. Oops, let me make sure I have my slideshow up. Thanks for your patience. Okay. There we go. Okay. And it looks like we got a small group tonight. So if you have questions, this is really a good night to be here because we might be able to answer them in detail. Okay, so welcome to the folks who have joined us tonight. We're also recording this webinar. Again, my name is Becca White, and I'm from Efficiency Vermont, and I also happen to be the coordinator for the Button Up Vermont campaign for Efficiency Vermont. And tonight, I'm going to give us a short explanation of some basics of weatherization. Then we're also going to introduce you to our co-host tonight, who is Brock, your community action agency, who's going to tell us some more about income eligible weatherization. And we've also got tonight two of our regional planning commissions. So we've got Bennington Regional Planning Commission and the Rutland Regional Planning Commission. So thank you to Barbara from the Rutland Regional Planning Commission, and thank you, Jim. And then tonight, you've also got a special treat because we have Callie Fishburne, who is our the newest addition to the BCRC crew. And she's also got her NeighborWorks of Western Vermont hat on and the Heat Squad. So you might learn a little bit about that tonight too. So let's dive right in. Okay, so I'm going to talk a bit about buttoning up. What is that? How to get started? And we also have some info on renters and landlords for you tonight, in addition to that income eligible weatherization piece. So when we talk about weatherization, I always present this slide, and it's my favorite because it truly is the best analogy I've found for explaining insulation and air sealing. So when you have your fabulous cable knit sweater, maybe you're like me, got like a cowl knit sweater on, that's great to go outside in, except while it's good insulation, air can get through my lovely knit and actually make me cold, even though I'm nice and insulated. So what you want to do is you also throw on that windbreaker, that extra layer. That is equivalent to our air sealing. So when you've got your insulation and your air sealing together, you've got that perfect combination. And for insulation and air sealing, think cable knit sweater, windbreaker. We had a presentation yesterday for Weatherization Wednesday, and I learned some new analogies around insulating and air sealing, which is you may not need when you weatherize to throw on a brand new sweater, but you might need to repair that sweater. So if you've weatherized your home or you've looked at it a few years ago, or you think it's already weatherized, you're still going to want to look at that sweater and consider all the different pieces that come with it if you've insulated before. So interesting new addition to the analogy. When we talk about weatherization, we also need to tell you a bit about the stack effect. So with this image, you can see how that cold air comes up through the ground, comes up through your basement, and actually then comes out the top of your home. So if you're imagining that you're heating that middle section of your home right there, you're actually letting that air get cold. So you're heating it again, which is no good. and you're letting it come out the top of your roof. So you're essentially letting your energy and your heat right out the top. And one thing to know about the stack effect is that many of us might experience the stack effect as cool air or a draft next to a window or at our walls. So we assume it's our windows, or we need to replace our windows, when in reality, it's that air traveling. It's that stack effect that we see in our homes that is causing the need to weatherize. So that's where that basement and attic come into play. When we talk about insulation, we also want to talk about the places that you would want to concentrate that insulation and air sealing. So some of the most common leaks would be where you might see your attic, your ceiling, rim joints, basement walls, the foundation. So when you think about where you might have little pockets of air or little holes in your house, that's where air sealing comes into play. The example I often refer to is in our home, we found that our internet cable, what connects us to lovely presentations like this, was actually not properly air sealed. So we had this hole that we didn't even know about that was letting air out of our house. So lots of little things that you might not know, but are actually impacting the amount of fuel and energy that you're using. And on top of that, there's many reasons why you would button up. So even when you think about buttoning up or weatherizing your home, well, maybe you're into it for the building science, there's probably some other reasons you might be thinking about it. And the top 4 reasons to give you for why you would weatherize are: first, saving money. So actually, before we kicked off the presentation, I was talking to our other presenters about the potential for increased cost in fuel this winter. So in addition to some predictions around supply chain and the increase of fuel, in every year, saving money is a possibility with weatherization, but even more critical this year. And I would expect in the next year, as we still work out those kinks with the supply chain. But comprehensive weatherization can actually save you money on your fuel bill. And in many cases, the cost of weatherizing is lower than what you would have paid over time. So you're saving that money both in the short term and in the long term. Another piece is you can save energy. So you're just using less fuel, which is great. So if you're considering how do you have an impact on the environment, this ties into that reducing carbon pollution piece as well. When we are heating the outdoors, we're also adding emissions, which is something that the state of Vermont is working hard to respond to. So we have statewide energy goals, and you weatherizing and buttoning up your home helps contribute to those. Then the last thing I want to talk about is increase in comfort. And I'm sure our friends at Brock can tell many stories about how increase in comfort is one of the most important pieces to weatherizing. And my caveat that I give during every presentation: if you're a Vermonter and you have a second story in your home, or you've got a room that you do not use, you don't have to live like that. You can weatherize that part of your home, and you don't need to shut it down in the winter or not use it for a season. There is a comfortable solution so you can actually fully use your home. And if you're like me and you work from home, it's so nice to have another location that you can work from versus maybe hanging out in your living room. So if you're thinking about weatherization, comfort is key. Another benefit on the comfort scale, I would say, is indoor air quality. We had a great presentation again yesterday around health and safety as it relates to weatherization, and the increased air quality is something that many folks have noticed after they've weatherized. So big benefit, makes you much more comfortable, reduces the risks of respiratory disease, can even do things like respond to if you have eczema or a skin condition. Like, there's all things that affect our health that weatherization can actually be the solution you don't expect but could be the solution. And yeah, I just want to underscore that emissions targets piece because it is so critical to Vermont and our energy plan, and something that your regional planning commissions know a lot about. So if you have any questions about how we're planning for that, you've got the experts here. Next up on our agenda, I'm going to tell us a little bit about how we can get started. So now that you've heard a bit about the building science, you're totally persuaded that you need to weatherize, you're 100% on board, you're ready to do it. How do you get started? So there's a few ways. We're going to dive more into that income eligible piece in a moment. But there's also comprehensive weatherization using the Home Performance with Energy Star program. There are incentives of up to 50% of the cost of a project, up to $1,000, and then an additional monies if you are income qualified in that way as well. So there are some pretty good incentives right now for weatherizing. There's also the DIY rebate, which is $100 if you complete 3 of 6 eligible do-it-yourself projects. And let's say you are not sure if you can put an upfront cost towards weatherizing. You could do what we did, for example, in my house, which is we got the home energy loan. We've also got NeighborWorks of Western Vermont here tonight to speak to that. And I know we've got the executive director, Melanie, is here from Heat Squad. So we've also got some insider scoops on that if you want to talk more about the home energy loan. And one correction on here, it says $40,000. Apologies, that number should say $20,000 up to for borrowing. But the home energy loan is great because it's extremely low when it comes to interest rates. In fact, you can get as low as no interest. And it can be combined with a number of other projects. So if you're thinking, hey, we want to weatherize and get a heat pump, this might be the right thing for you. Same with wood heating or upgrading to more efficient appliances. There's also a health and safety component too that you could include in the loan. And then here's the examples of the do-it-yourself rebates that you could do any 3 of these things and you could qualify. And if you are a part of a community that's doing window dressers this year, if you know what that is, I would flag that a window dressers unit can also qualify for the $100 do-it-yourself rebate. Ooh, now you don't have to listen to me for a bit. You get the fabulous, our fabulous friends at Brock. Oops, I've skipped over there we go. You get to say hello to Mark. Hey, Mark.
Hi there. How you doing? Good job, Becca.
Thanks.
Hello, everybody. Anyway, I'd just like to touch base on the excellent program we have at Broad Community Action, which is free weatherization for homeowners. That means rentals and homes that people own. So it doesn't matter if it's an apartment house, it's a landlord. Landlords, you don't have to qualify income eligible wise, but you could have your tenants qualify as well. So anyway, we do Rutland and Bennington County. We do it all ourselves. We have our own weatherization techs from boots on the ground all the way up through to auditors and quality control personnel to do that. Now, income eligible is you look at it and you can say, oh, geez, I'm never going to qualify for that. And, you know, I always say this, nothing ventured, nothing gained. And there's income eligibility guidelines in there, but some income is not counted towards that. So the best thing to do is to call ourselves, our agency, or one of the other 4 agencies that do it in the state, and let them decide if you're eligible or not. It's not that much work to actually find out, and you might be surprised on what counts for income and what doesn't. So don't be discouraged if you look at them and say, oh man, I'm never going to qualify for that. So throw your hat in the ring and throw in an application for that. And if you don't, obviously we can lead you in the direction to NeighborWorks for a low interest loan for weatherization services. They got a great program there. They have their own auditors, and then they'll direct you to some weatherization services that are certified Energy Star certified contractors to do your weatherization in your home. So anyway, we do basically our agency, Brock Community Action in Rutland and Bennington County. We're slated this year. We started in July, and our grant year ends in June. We're going to be doing a little bit over 200 homes, and that's a lot of homes. And the more we do, the more money we're going to save, and that money that people save doing that can be basically help the economy, because it's going to hopefully maybe go back into the community, the local communities. And not only is the savings in the fuel and energy for your home, some of the savings might be in visits to the doctor's offices or prescriptions and everything like that, because we do improve the indoor air quality, as Becca pointed out. We work with moisture control too. Nobody likes black mold growing in their bathrooms or in their basement. So it work with that too. So we do a comprehensive energy audit of your whole home. And it's all free at no charge. And the average cost, you can see here on the slide, is $9,500, and nothing comes out of your pocket. And we'll assess your heating system, and we can upgrade that or replace it if necessary. And we also have funding for, some minor home repairs. If, you got some minor roof problems, and we'll take care of that. It actually protects the weatherization investment that we're putting into your home. And we do heat pump water heaters. If you qualify for that. We also do heat pump mini splits. We got some funding for that, and wood burning heating sources, pellet and wood, that we can work with that too as well. I mean, everybody knows, I think, the best source of heat in Vermont, number one is wood. Everybody likes to heat with wood. It's a great heat. So we do have funding for that as well. So basically, if you're interested in doing that, I suggest you reach out to us in Rutland and Bennington County and one of the other 4 agencies in the state that do it, and just call them, check the income, and see if you do qualify, because you can't beat free weatherization.
Nice. And Mark, I love this slide in particular, with all the great feedback and testimonials you've got.
I love seeing them in. I get them all the time, and I love opening these envelopes, and just I like sharing them with the crew guys. The boots on the ground, especially the auditors too, but the boots on the ground, they take a lot of pride in what they do. And it's a great feeling when you go into a home, and especially in the wintertime, if we're doing one there and the icicles are hanging down to the ground, and by the time they're out of there, the whole place is just changed. It's like a new home. And even the personality and the mental state of the people living there, the family living there, are just like, it just flips around. It's like a mirror image, and it's just a great job. So it's, guys we got working in the community, helping their own community. We weatherized a home that was a neighbor of one of the crew guys. That was very interesting. So it's a great feel-good job, and I love getting the letters back from people. It's really heartwarming to hear that and know you touched the lives of a lot of people and saved them some money.
Well said. So I know you just talked a little bit, Mark, about how you do have some programs for renters and landlords. And I'll also talk a little bit more about some options that could be for renters in addition to the income eligible program. And if you're tuning into this and you have questions about what Mark just talked about, feel free to put those in the chat. We're all set to answer questions at the end, or put them in the Q&A. And if you have questions about anything else, same thing. We're here to answer those. So a little bit more about renters and landlords and what you can do. The first thing, and I'm just going to give a couple tips that if you're a renter, here's some opportunities for you if you're thinking about weatherizing or ways that you can save energy. The first is that you could change the temperature. I think most Vermonters are familiar with this trick, which is you can lower your temperature a bit, even 7 to 10 degrees for something like 8 hours a day. Like if you're sleeping or at work and you don't need that heat, that's a great choice if you're thinking about saving energy. Also switching to LED bulbs. That's a favorite here at Efficiency Vermont. We love seeing folks switch over to LEDs. Something that I always pitch whenever talking about LEDs is you might think, hey, we're all LED. We did that. There is probably just 1 or 2 secret spots in your home that do not have LEDs in them. I'll just put that out there. We learned that, Miss Efficiency Vermont over here, our range hood had a bulb that was very old. And it's also the bulb that we were using as like our nightlight in our kitchen. You leave it on just in case. So you don't, when you get in a glass of water, you're not running into things. Was it an LED? So putting that pitch out there, maybe a little detective work will help you find some of those places too. Another renter trick, and for all homeowners as well, is removing dust and buildup in your refrigerator or your heating systems. That can really help with efficiency. And I'm sure anyone who works in the weatherization field can tell you about exhaust fans as well. Not a bad move to do a little bit of pre-winter or spring cleanup, whatever season. Then more on the weatherization side, you could also do some weather stripping on windows and doors. Great choice. And again, that will qualify for your DIY rebate. You could reduce what we call the idle load or the vampire load, since we're in the Halloween month, which are those appliances or electronics that are using energy, but you don't actually use them, or you're not actually using them while they're draining and spending money just by being plugged in. And then last but certainly not least, have you thought about curtains? Some nice heavy material is never a bad idea. And it can both help you, keeping them shut during a hot summer day can keep your home nice and cool, or opening them up and taking in the sunshine to heat your home. Lots of benefits there to those curtains. The other thing I want to just reaffirm is that there are options for landlords. There are options for renters. We talked about the income eligible piece, but there are, even with comprehensive weatherization, DIY, and then for larger scale multifamily properties, there are some incentives out there. So definitely don't count yourself out. And then I wanted to just give a shout out to our lovely friends here tonight from Heat Squad and NeighborWorks. This is a little bit about what they do. And if you haven't met Callie, again, just want to make sure that you talk to her at some point, because she is now in the region and can help folks in Bennington in particular. But NeighborWorks and Heat Squad in particular provides the comprehensive low-cost energy audits. And what you can find with those energy audits is a real ability to prioritize and set yourself up to make good decisions when it comes to weatherizing your home. And we'll let Melanie and Callie speak a bit more when we get to Q&A too. So now that you've heard all of that good stuff and you're ready to jump on it, if you didn't sponge up every bit of information and you still have things that you want to ask, again, put that question in the chat or reach out to customer support at Efficiency Vermont. We can schedule a free virtual home energy visit. If you're thinking about a contractor, there's the Find a Contractor page. And then, of course, call your community action agency. That's our friends at Brock. And none of you are in Burlington, but maybe you have some friends in Burlington. They also have some choices too with BED. There we go. So thanks for joining. I'm going to stop sharing my screen as we start to take questions. So if you've got some, I'm not seeing any in the chat yet. So we're ready to answer, folks. We want to get your questions answered tonight. And thanks to the many Button Up Vermont sponsors. Okay.
I would like to mention that we are looking for people in the workforce too. So if anybody knows anybody that wants to pick a career in the world of weatherization and energy conservation, feel free to reach out to Broad Community Action. We got openings in Bennington and Rutland. So it's a great career path.
Here we go. Oh, and then we got Melanie. Great. Yes, I see some folks in the audience. Feel free to put your question in the chat, or if you would like, you can also raise a hand. We're happy to, got a small crew, so happy to answer directly. If you've got one that you're not quite sure, if you can type it out. In the meantime, I would love to ask this group maybe a common question if folks want to take a swing at that. So let's say I'll give an example we get all the time. I live in an old home. I'm talking 1820s, 1830s farmhouse, and I'm ready to weatherize, but I'm not quite sure if my home, like, I want to make sure that I can have a home weatherized that's affordable to me. And I know I got a lot of work. Where would I start? Oh, and I see we've also got, soon we're going to have a question. I see a nice, this one might be directed at you too, Melanie. But let's kick it off there. I've got an old home, not sure where to start. Where would you go?
Do you want any of us to answer? Is that what you're saying, Becca?
Yeah, give it a go, Melanie.
All right. You rock at this, Becca, by the way. Just want to say that. Very good at this.
I paid her, guys.
Just a little bit. I'll take it in Venmo. Yeah, so, they're really, I make a joke, but I'm like, any house can be weatherized. I say, even a dog house, right? And I think it starts, personally, I think it starts with an energy audit just to see how the house is performing. And then it really can give you a full comprehensive, really look at the house to say, all right, this is where you're at right now, but this is where we could see you could go. I just give those kind of estimates and kind of break it down to prioritize which measures and rough costs and savings, and just to kind of, and Heat Squad, we can show people everything on that. I call it the comprehensive energy path, weatherization. Then you add maybe the heat pumps or technology. Maybe you want to add renewables. We can kind of show that whole path and what the savings might look like and where the return on investment, ROI, is. But really, it's with an energy audit, we're depressurizing the house, so we're seeing where those cracks and crevices are, and it's really an educational piece. And can't tell you how many people are just like, whoa, I had no idea that was, what was causing that problem. Or, oh, I thought spiders just like to live in my, my rim joists in my basement. Well, that's where that air is coming in, and spiders love that. So there's lots of great opportunity in education that I think any house really can start with an energy audit to see, what's happening and kind of where we could get you to, and how to prioritize it or phase it, that's fine too. And so really kind of lay it all out. But an energy audit, I think, is where we should start.
I think, Melanie, one of the really key points about those energy audits and the services that you provide and Brock can provide too is an assessment of, what some of those priorities should be for you too, especially when you're concerned about, how much you can afford to pay. If you can show that improvement, if you do improvement A, B, and C, and it costs this much money, and, in case of Brock, Brock's got the easiest thing to sell because it's free. So it's always a win-win for Brock, right? But even something where a homeowner may have to finance something, when you can find out which of those improvements you can actually pay for at a cost less, then your savings are basically more than what your monthly cost is in paying for the financing of it. I mean, it may cost something, but in reality, it might not cost you anything at all because you're saving so much money.
And Jim, since you're specific to Bennington, I'm wondering if you run into that a lot. Is that a question that comes up for folks? Do you have an older home stock in Bennington?
We have, yeah, Bennington certainly does. I mean, it's probably one of the older ones in the state, being one of the older towns in the state. And a lot of those older homes definitely are in need of weatherization work. And yeah, certainly people have that question. And I think that the process is a little bit intimidating for people because, like you say, they're like, oh my God, there's so many things that need to be done. And, I have to figure out what needs to be done and how to get the money to pay for it and who to hire. And that's why I always like to point people to one of the service agencies. And, in our case, we have Callie now working with Melanie and Heat Squad to try to connect people because their job is to make all that simple for you. To take that intimidation factor away and to make it a very simple process, and they'll walk you through the whole series of steps from A to Z to get your project done with as little disruption and confusion as possible. So.
Great. Thanks, Jim. And, Rob Constantino, I see that you started a question potentially. If you're having trouble putting something in the chat, feel free to raise your hand or go ahead and put in Q&A. Love to answer anything that you might be asking, but we didn't quite get the full question. So knowing that we've got a couple of minutes to spare and I'm not seeing any questions pop up, I'm wondering, Mark, if you could speak a little bit more to what it means to apply to get free weatherization. Sounds like there's an intake process. And to speak to Jim's point, ooh, if I'm intimidated, what would you say?
Don't be intimidated. Actually, we got a pretty good process now, and our intake specialist, Kelly, will actually go over, she'll schedule a time and do it completely over the phone with the person and fill it out for them, basically. We've ended up getting a higher return rate on applications instead of just mailing them out to the folks, because there's always missed pieces of information, this and that. So she'll make appointments, she'll schedule appointments with everyone and go over it with them over the phone. If she's got it down, she can do an application with somebody in 15 minutes. Yeah, and then she contacts the fuel dealers for the fuel usage and everything else. So I mean, definitely, and like you said, every home can be weatherized. Like Melanie said, even a doghouse. But but definitely, and if they start with broad community action and they are deemed eligible, we have funding that only goes so far. We got to stretch it to see how many homes we do. But they can always work with NeighborWorks as well and take out a smaller loan to do some other things that they want to do that the weatherization program we have won't pay for, maybe, so there's you can work together on that. So they won't have to they don't have to work with one organization. There's several different leveraged funding sources that can go into one project. So that's don't be afraid.
That's good you said that, Mark, because I was going to say that too. There are times we cross, or some people, who do we call? I'm like, either one. If someone calls us, and boy, you should really call Brock, because it looks like you could apply. And then I know we've worked together on projects, so it's definitely a collaborative effort, to help people to get them to the end game, saving money.
Yeah, we're all in the same.
Yep, for sure.
Going the same direction, and I love the state of Vermont, and the more communities and folks we help, the more weatherization we can do, the better all around.
Totally. And I see we actually do have a hand that's up. Timothy Severance. I'm gonna click that you are allowed to talk. That's what I get for host privileges. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So ask away.
Well, thank you very much, Becca. So part of my question was actually kind of just answered, and it was a little bit more convoluted to type it. So I figured I'd just try to stumble my way through it instead. So the house where I'm living currently, it's a 1940s home, and we're planning renovations kind of like in the spring. And reality, we were looking at the basement and kind of finishing off the basement, and kind of getting the basement kind of weatherized because it's not insulated, rim joists aren't insulated, nothing. And so I guess my first part of my question is, doing that whole process, where would I start? Would I start at Brock? Would I start at Heat Squad, do the energy audit? Who, what, when, where, why, how?
I'm so glad you're here tonight, because I think we can get you an answer to this one.
That'd be perfect.
If I chime in, I would like to say, Tim, you should start at Brock Community Action to see if you qualify first.
I can do that.
And then go from there. I mean, we've had folks that, and just touching base on your renovations, we've had folks that qualify and they're doing renovations. They're like, well, I can't do it now and this and that. So they do qualify. They're working on their renovations, and basically, of course, depending on the time of the year, when they do those, say they're building a wall, redoing a wall and stuff like that, we'll have them leave it empty, and we'll put the insulation in there when we get to weatherize the home, so they can leave that out of the mix and just do the drywall and everything else, so we can air seal it and to help them out with that. So obviously, if you're doing the renovations, I'm not sure what you're doing, but if you do qualify, we could supply that insulation. And we do have self-help too, where we can supply you, if you want to do a little bit of your own, we can supply you with some stuff that you can put in before we have the crew go over there and weatherize as well. So
okay.
I would start to see if you qualify eligible wise first.
Yeah, no, that'd be perfect.
And Timothy, this is Melanie, Heat Squad. Yeah, I would say, to Mark's point too, it's before you do the work, it's best to start the process now. So,
Right. Yeah.
if you income qualify with, Brock, it's good to get them involved. If you don't, then, Heat Squad's all income. I always tell, we kind of start where the weatherization agency like Brock kind of stops. If you don't qualify, then call us. It's good to get that audit and see where the house is performing and set that kind of benchmark or threshold, and then, do the work after that. It's when people, I'm in the middle of a project. Oh, you should have called me before. Because
Right.
the incentives from Efficiency Vermont, well, it's a couple different reasons, but the incentives are based on like, okay, where did you start and where did you end, to kind of see, you have to have a 10% air reduction. So you need that pre and post to kind of get you into the door. But it's also good just to show you how the house is performing and where you can get to once the work is done. So
Yeah, no, that'd be
never too
perfect.
early to start, for sure.
No, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, good luck.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Timothy. And yeah, good
Anytime.
luck.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to need it.
And then Callie has been kind enough to put the link in the chat for Heat Squad. So if that is, actually, I'm going to put that in for everyone because it's to hosts and panelists, but I'm going to pop that in the chat for you, Tim, so you can click.
Awesome.
that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And they're pretty fast, right? You guys are,
Yeah.
We are on it. So is Brock.
Yeah. So seeing no other questions, I'm gonna just take a moment. If there are and we're not seeing you, please go ahead and put in the chat, but maybe we can do one final question, or if folks have anything else they want to bring up tonight, and we can always end a little bit early. Jim,
Yeah, one of the things I always like to bring up, just to I know you mentioned it earlier, but I think it's worth getting a little bit more guidance out there for folks. We talked about our housing stock in Bennington County, and I'm sure it's the same in Rutland. And an awful lot of our housing that's most in need is renter occupied housing. So that, like the eligibility and the types of programs that are available for folks who rent is, I think, pretty important too. And I know there's some special programs for that. There's some special programs for landlords, and there's some things that renters can access directly. If anybody wants to take a quick swing at summarizing that a little bit.
Well, I can speak a
Thanks,
little
Mark.
bit on that. Anyway, we do multifamily, we do single home rentals. We do multifamily rentals too. And we work in conjunction with, actually there's the 5 agencies that in the state that do that, but there's also 3E Thermal that does multifamilies, and we work hand in hand with them. We do a lot of buildings with them as well. And they're kind of like a NeighborWorks for multifamilies in a way, I guess. They have the incentives, work with Efficiency Vermont to upgrade everything from appliances to lighting to heating plants and everything else. And we supply a certain amount of weatherization to the projects there. So any kind of landlords or building owners can reach out to 3E Thermal as well. But we do referrals to 3E Thermal as well for every one of our multifamilies. So if the landlord or the owner wants to reach out to 3E Thermal, they have that information there, and then they can have a discussion with 3E Thermal of what can be provided, what's available, what it will look like, what the savings is over the investment that they might be spending, and what how much the rebates and incentives are for different types of those things. So there's a lot to it. So we team up with them a lot as well.
Mark, what's considered multifamily?
Anything above 1 unit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we got small multis, which is 1 to 4 units. Then we have large multis that are 5 and over. But we work with them. If we can do a 2 unit multi with them.
And people also ask about weatherization of mobile homes. So there's some things that can be done for mobile homes too, right?
Oh, a lot. It's amazing what you can do to a mobile home. Yeah, from the belly to the roof insulation. Yeah, there's a lot to it. So mobile homes are not left out at all. We do a lot of mobile homes.
That's a great point, Jim. And we actually have a question in the chat, which is asking about the income eligibility guidelines. And I don't know, Mark, if you can speak a little bit to that. I don't know if you got them off the top of your head, but there is a difference between Rutland and Bennington. Oh, Barbara, did you have something you wanted to jump in on? Okay. Yeah, tell us. Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Income guidelines for Rutland and Bennington County are the same. Actually, for a family of 4, the income guidelines are $67,300 of income for a family of 4. One person income level is $47,110. And then the 2 family would be $53,840 to qualify. So then again, if you're anywhere near close to that, you should actually talk to Kelly, because some income is not counted towards that. So.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. And sorry, Barbara, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I jumped the gun there and didn't have an answer for the income question. But I just wanted to add a few things. We've got these amazing agencies in our area that are doing great work. So if anyone out there needs help connecting with them or with connecting to other people that might need their services, I know those of us at the Rutland Regional Planning Commission would love to help those people out. And I'm sure Bennington would as well.
Thanks, Barbara. Yeah, you've got great resources if you're in Rutland or Bennington. Really a good combo. Not seeing any other questions in the chat, but we're going to hopefully be able to give you some links if you go on the Brock website for a little bit more on that income eligibility stuff. But again, as Mark put it, if you think you're anywhere in that range, give a call over to, it sounds like the lovely Kelly over at Brock. And if you happen to go to Heat Squad first, they'll also be helpful and able to tell you, hey, you might want to pop back over to Brock or find another alternative. So we can give it another minute if anyone's got any questions.
Because I always have one more thing to say, Becca. So I just, Barbara mentioned the regional planning commissions can be helpful to get people in touch, and some of the folks that we can help you connect with too. And I want to give a shout out to our local energy committees that have been doing a really great job in a lot of our towns getting the word out on some of these programs. And I was at a meeting the other night, and one of the local energy committee members was talking about the window dressers program that was mentioned earlier, where they make those efficient window inserts, custom window inserts for folks. And I was amazed. He was just talking about the northern. They really have a group in northern Bennington County and southern Bennington County. They're working on those, and just the northern group, I believe, said they've got 250 people signed up this year through the window dressers program. And Kelly probably knows a lot more about it, how things are going south too. But I'm like, that's I think that's great, both from just the perspective of the energy savings we're going to see from those and how people are going to be a lot more comfortable, but also I think that's exactly the kind of program that can build a lot of momentum and, get the word out about weatherization and get people asking what else can they do. So shout out to our local energy committees for doing that great work with window dressers.
Well, I'm glad you had one more thing to add, Jim, because that's paramount. We can't forget our energy committees. And actually, this might be, Callie, we've referenced you a few times. You're the newest Bennington County, maybe, how do I put it, energy guru, because we're going to have you for both Heat Squad and Bennington. So if you want to take a minute to introduce yourself, and I know you had your hand up, so whatever else you were hoping to share.
Yeah, I was just gonna piggyback on Jim's comment for window dressers and plug that they're looking for volunteers at their upcoming community builds. But yeah, I am Callie Fishburne, and I am the new regional energy coordinator at BCRC, and also doing some outreach for Heat Squad in Bennington. But yeah, so window dressers are having their community builds in the first 2 weeks of November, South Shire in the first week and North Shire in the week following. And orders are done, so you can no longer order inserts for this year, but they are still looking for volunteers to attend and help them assemble their inserts at their builds. And I know that Melanie and Heat Squad have generously provided coupons for reduced cost energy audits for volunteers and participants in the build. So if you were, I can put the sign up links in the chat briefly to sign up to volunteer. And if you do attend, you can get a coupon. I think it's for $50 off.
Yeah, correct, Kelly.
Audit costs. Yeah. So
only $100 for an energy audit. Yeah. Sweet deal.
Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there, because I know they're looking for, they've got a lot of inserts to build, and more people they have, the less time it'll take. So yeah.
Well, that's perfect, Callie. Thank you. And I know if you aren't familiar with window dressers, fabulous program, and the community builds themselves. What I've heard the analogy to is like an old-fashioned barn raising, because it's really a community activity where you're doing it with people who are your neighbors, and it's an activity. So I don't know if they're doing food or pizza this year, but in previous years, that was also a nice benefit they provided. But maybe the audit discount will trump any pizza. Well, with that, I think it's time we start to close out the evening. I want to thank our panelists who were able to join tonight. Thank you to the Rutland Regional Planning Commission, Barbara, the Bennington Regional Planning Commission, both Jim Sullivan and Callie Fishburne. Brock, Mark, thank you so much. It was great to have you speak to the income eligibility stuff. And thank you, Melanie, for joining us from Heat Squad. So yeah, thanks everybody. And I'll share the recording out. If you have folks who weren't able to join, you'll get it in your email. So have a good night.
Thanks, Becca.
Thanks, Becca.
Thanks.
Bye.